good morning. Just before we talk about the game, there's a lot of chat this week, and I suppose in the last while, about alternatives for existing internationals and players. I'm getting at a kind of Johnny Sexton scenario here. You're fortunate that you've got two really good out halves in Rossburn and his brother Harry, and you've shown in your team selection that it's possible to accommodate both of them in a starting role, and Harry at 10 is an interesting choice for the game against the Dragons.
We weren't really too sure what was going to happen with Ross. He was on the bench and how much he was going to play. And there's a couple of guys always during the Six Nations or the international windows, similar in November, or particularly during the Six Nations, obviously with these break weekends, and who's going to come back. And you will have seen the squad that is coming together, whatever that list of 24 players. So we had a good chunk of guys involved there, which is great. But yeah, Ross came back anyway, so we were keen to accommodate him and get him involved. Harry, you might have seen down at the Aviva, but he got called in late with Johnny pulling out last week. So, but yeah, no, great. Obviously, the two of them they know each other very, very well, having kicked ball around the back garden for many, many years together. So, yeah, it's something that we wanted to see for a while. So it gives us a chance to see what it looks like. And the two of them have been great as well, both very, very competitive in their own way. And obviously Ross has played a lot of games for us over the last number of years. Harry's played a lot of games for us this year. I think he's probably had the most starts of our 10s this season, certainly in the Guinness Pro 14. So, it's a good opportunity for us to see the two of them together.
I know it's a different end to the season this year, but that's what we're talking about at the moment. But you've said in the past, and people have said in the past, that it's while the sort of more seasoned internationals are away, that's the part of the season where you picked up more points that helped propel you to finals rugby. And I mean that's the importance of the game, like the match against the Dragons.
Exactly. Well, there's the same amount of points up for grabs as there is, when you've got two sets of full squads or whatever it is with internationals littered throughout the team. So, and that's in many ways the beauty of the competition. I think there's a lot of supporters certainly enjoy seeing a lot of the younger players come through. It's great over in Scarlet seeing Jamie Osborne come off the bench to make his debut. Only 19 years of age, so amazing for him and his family. On the flip side of that, over Christmas, we had quite an inexperienced team. So for when Max O'Reilly made his debut and Greg McGrath wasn't quite as an enjoyable experience for them. So we tried to prepare well last week, and knowing there was going to be a short week this week, travel today and off we go against Dragons tomorrow. We'll see what the conditions are like. Dragons are one of those teams, again, they're not as badly affected by international call-ups. So even if you go back to that, what the Irish squad is at the moment, whatever the makeup of that 24 players that are involved there, you go, I wouldn't mind taking on Leinster at the moment because they've 16 guys in that 24. So I think there's teams will look at us at this point in time, but we've tried to work away in the background here, spend a lot of time with our young, particularly academy players, making sure that they're getting closer to make the step up, and give a good account of themselves, because that's what we all want here. So, but yeah, we'll see how we go. We know it's going to be a tough game for us. Never an easy place to go, Rodney Parade. We'll see what the conditions are like, and we'll try and make a plan accordingly, obviously on the day. But guys trained well last week. As I said, a couple of guys have dropped back in this week. Ryan Baird, Jack Conan, they were knocking around Irish camp last week as well. So they've come back in, plenty of energy and enthusiasm. Looking forward to getting out and playing and hopefully delivering a decent performance.
And just a final question for me, if you don't mind, it's just in relation to kind of the more senior players like Luke McGrath, who's the captain, Dave Carney. You look at Jack Cullen, a 100th cap for him. Is it a sort of almost a kind of a mental challenge for players like that? Given the fact they know they're good enough to play at the international level in terms of being in a match day 23 for a Six Nations game, but they're not just quite there at this moment in time.
And there's very fine, it's fine margins with some of the selection calls, I think, when it comes to Ireland. I think Reece is a classic example. Reece Ruddock, who started his first game for Ireland in the Six Nations, which I was actually shocked when I read it myself, because Reece's been around for so long, and he's been such a key figure for us. And I think he missed out on selection for the November sequence of games, obviously the finishing the Six Nations, etc., into that autumn series. But he played such a pivotal role here for us, which gave him that consistency of playing. Very important for us as a leader in the group, and Luke has taken on that role for us now. So thought Luke was excellent in that Scarlets game, and hopefully that again propels the guys that we have here, propels them forward to whenever the next selection is, that they're in a much better place.
Good man, thank you.
Leo, Don Swift here. I mean, you talked there about like the change from seasoned players down to academy players, but of course the feeder is the schools. It's not there at the moment. How does Leinster take account of that now?
Yeah, it was a very, very tricky time for underage and development rugby at the moment because of, and that's just not rugby, that's all sports. From what I gather, so it's a difficult challenge to try and keep everybody engaged, because of the challenges with having a mass outdoor gathering, which is what a team sport generally is. So huge challenges there. So try to get as much support as possible in place, and everyone's working hard behind the scenes. But yeah, because of the lack of crowds at professional level, which means that there's less resources coming into the game, which means less resources getting redistributed around. So it's a very, very tough time for sport in general at the moment. For us, we feel very fortunate that we're able to continue on playing, but we do understand we're very, very lucky to be able to continue to do what we do. But yeah, there's definitely a more optimistic view, I think, around the place with vaccinations, etc. But it's going to take another period of time, I think, before we're back to what we once knew as normal. Obviously we feel seems like a long time ago now, but hopefully we're getting back towards those times.
Thanks, Leo.
Dave, Jerry, if you have a couple of questions for Leo, happy to take them now. Or we can leave it there. Okay.
Hi Leo.
Jerry, yeah.
Hi, Jerry.
Very hard. I'm just wondering how big a blow is it for to have Dan Leavy out of action again for a length of time, and even for the player himself, it's a bit of a tough time for him.
Yeah, the injuries in rugby, like it's part and parcel of the job spec in many ways, and trying to be able to cope with dealing with the setbacks that do come along the way of most players' careers. And Dan, yeah, like he had as we all know, had a big injury in that Ulster quarter final a number of years ago, and has done incredibly well to come back. So it's another setback. I think he will take a lot of confidence from the fact that he's got back playing. I don't believe this procedure will be, in terms as significant in terms of making a return from that. So I think he's a lot of confidence in the fact that he has got back playing. He understands where he got to, and I do envisage him coming back stronger next time. I know Dan is a very, very resilient character, very, very strong mentally. And yeah, we'll put all the necessary supports in place from here, so to ensure that he does get back, because yeah, he's such a key figure in the group, and even just in our last game, Dan was playing, so played the game and delivered a big performance for us. So he's hugely important for us, and we see him as being a hugely important member of our group moving forward as well.
Yeah, and just with the kind of stop-start scenario over the season this year, how difficult is it to keep people sort of training hard and firing, and keeping them active all through this season? Is it particularly a tough season?
Yeah, well, there's like complications every week, so there is with the testing process and going through that, and all the various different COVID, strategies that are in place to make sure things are as safe as possible. So, and overall, I think a huge amount of credit has to go to everyone in the RFU and in all the unions for that matter, and the provinces and the teams that are involved in the various leagues. Everyone has had their challenges at different stages, but overall, the show has been kept on the road, so to speak. With Europe there's still a bit of uncertainty as to what that looks like, and we're getting closer to this point now. So there's the big piece, I suppose, in the summer, which is the Lions tour, which it's such a key thing in a lot of our international players. And it's in players' minds. They all want to. The Lions comes around every 4 years, so it's such a huge honour for players in the Northern Hemisphere to go away on a Lions trip. What that looks like, where is that going to take place? So once that piece, that very large piece of the jigsaw gets slotted into place, then what does it look like? So we know the Rainbow Cup for our own point of view, and what does that look like from a schedule point of view. But that's very much what the travel picture is going to look like. So for us, that's all down the road. So however that plays out, we don't have that much control of that currently. So at the moment, we're very much fixated on this block of 5 games, starting with Dragons tomorrow. And we know the huge challenges of playing Dragons at this time of year, where obviously, as we've talked about, we're missing a good chunk of players, whereas they're less affected. So it's going to be a great test for our guys, particularly some of our younger guys that haven't been there before. And then we go through this sequence of 5 games, and we'll see which takes us to basically the end of the Six Nations, and we will hopefully have more clarity at that stage, because we think there will be a final. Whether we're in that final or not, I don't know, because we're very much neck and neck with Ulster currently in our conference. So it's the battle for every single point at the moment, and we know, even going back to the very first question from Michael there, there's the same amount of points up for grabs in these games as there is when Leinster played Munster earlier on in the season, or whenever we played against Ulster. So it's important for our guys we understand that we can focus on what we can try and control, and that's trying to deliver a decent performance this weekend, and then we'll focus on next week and take it week by week. And I think that's the strategy for lots of people out there at the moment, because as we know, things are constantly changing.